And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and thank you so much for joining us for a unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. And thank you so much for helping us grow. We hit 1,800 subscribers on YouTube, and we grow every day thanks to people like you. Please remember to follow us on our social media accounts and subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. Our guests span classical music, contemporary music, and today we have a wonderful guest. We have Presley Tennant, a rising star in the country music world who is doing some really great work, and she's working on her first full-length album, and she's got singles out there on all the major platforms. You can see her on Spotify and everywhere else. She was first hit the scene as a finalist on season 16 of The Voice, and she was on Team Kelly, and that's really a great performance there. And since then, she's now performing with and opening up for some of the biggest acts in the business: Kelly Clarkson, Tim McGraw, John Michael Montgomery, and many, many more. We're delighted she can join us today. Welcome, Presley Tennant.
Hi, how's it going?
It's great to see you. And how are things in California today?
It's going pretty well. I'm down in San Diego preparing for a show, so I'm in a hotel room right now until tomorrow, so I'm very excited.
What's it like the day before a show? Do you still get nervous at this point in your career, or what's it like?
Not really. I mean, okay, it's a little different for me because I love performing in front of big crowds. I do not get nervous whatsoever, but as soon as it's like a tiny room and like maybe like 35 to 100 people, and I'm like, I can see every single one of their faces and their eyes, and I'm like, oh god, are they liking what they're hearing, that type of thing. So that's definitely more nerve-wracking than playing big shows.
So we were just talking in the pre-show about who you're opening for. Tell us who you're opening for tomorrow.
I'm opening up for Blake Shelton, Brett Young, and Carly Pierce, as well as the band Perry and Ian Music, so I'm very excited for it.
So you've been doing a lot of that, opening for some of the greatest in the industry. What's it like to meet some of these people, your heroes, and as you're climbing into that world? Tell us what it's like to be in that position.
It is so cool just to even share the stage with so many of these incredible artists, and I mean, with how legendary they are. I mean, they've influenced me in so many different ways and more than I can count. And so for me to be there and like be around them and be backstage and just kind of like know like I'm in the same presence as them, and then I finally get to see them perform too, and I'm like on the side stage. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and like to see the whole behind the scenes, because normally like it's way different from when you are in front of the stage watching versus when you're in the back and you see all the hard work and the dedication that gets put into it.
I mean, being on the road and sound checking is so much to do, and it's a heck of a big job, and it must be an incredible opportunity to watch these artists backstage and to beat them, and like a sponge, I'm sure you're growing and learning the whole time. So did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
So I started singing from a very young age, but mainly just as like the Taco Tuesdays karaoke nights. That was where I first started singing. Other than that, I thought I was going to be playing soccer for the rest of my life. My whole family is very sports orientated. Not one of them is musically inclined. I love them to death, but they're not, like I told you before. They're tone deaf and cannot clap on beat, but you know what? That makes them them. It's my favorite.
Someone's got to be in the audience, right? I'm sure they're huge fans.
They're the best supporters, and they mean so much to me, and they're with me every step of the way, which I'm very fortunate for.
It takes a whole team as you build a career, right, to have the people behind you to kind of help you out there, and nothing like having your folks there.
Oh, yeah. It is the best feeling to know that they love and support me no matter what I choose to do. So I'm very, very blessed to have them.
Now, country music, have you always been a huge country fan?
I've always been a huge country fan, but I first actually started off as a pop artist when I was growing up. I was in a girl group called the 5 LPs, or the 5 Little Princesses. We were 10 or like 9 to 12 years old. So that's like where I first got introduced to the whole music industry, and I didn't know this whole life outside of sports existed. And so when I finally got into it, I fell in love with it completely. I loved every single process of going to rehearsals, to bringing that to stage, to going to recording studios and writing and meeting so many incredible and influential people. It was a lot of learning that I had to do, and I'm so grateful for it. But so I started off in pop music, let's just say that. But I'm also from Norco, which is very Horsetown, country town oriented. I mean, we're also known as Horsetown, USA. You go down like a certain street and it's like painted red, white, and blue, and you go to like Taco Bell or Starbucks and there's horses in the drive-thru, that type of thing. So
Do you ride horses?
I do not. I wish I did, but my grandpa
It's
used
going to
to
be
have.
on one of your music videos. I can see it.
Oh yeah, no, my grandpa used to have one, so I used to ride it a little
Wow.
bit when I was younger, but then they moved.
That's fantastic. And so tell us about your first. Now, did you start songwriting at a young age too?
I started songwriting when I was about. I mean, I always kind of wrote. I always journaled everything or put everything down in a diary. But I didn't think about it as like putting it into song until I was probably around 14 years old, 14 or 15. And that's when I first started like writing about music. But I didn't have very many life experiences at the time. So it was like, I don't want to go to school. Let's just keep it summer.
Some of the
Like,
biggest hits in like some of
oh
the
yeah.
biggest hits in music are "I Don't Want to Go to School" or "I'm in Love."
Oh yeah. I have a song that I wrote and it like came out and I took it down now obviously, but it's called "Don't Take the Summer Yet" because I was like, back to school? Nope, we're not doing that. But what else is a 14-year-old gonna write about? So
You got to write
that's what I definitely
truth
started
about what
off.
you know, right? That's you
Oh yeah.
start there.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So, first time you played in front of an audience, one of your original songs. What was that like?
It was the coolest feeling I have ever had because I always, like I said, I always loved writing in some way, shape, or form. But when I started actually writing my own music and I got to release like my first single, it was the coolest and exciting feeling because it's like, oh my gosh, like a part of me is out to the world. I mean, with social media, it's a little bit different because you can post what you want. It's still an extension of you, but to put like your heart and soul, especially nowadays with the songs that I'm writing, this is truly like who I am and what I've gone through, or even if it's something that I haven't gone through and I've taken inspiration, it's just like a little extension of me still because I make everything for the most part about how I would react in certain instances, if that makes sense. And so for it to be out to the world and people are hearing it and they listen to it and they know the songs, it is such a cool feeling.
That's really wild. And I love the fact. I love this kind of interplay between producers and people who are songwriters. So tell us about the process of taking a song you've written and bringing it into the studio with production and how that changes things. I'm always interested by that.
Oh, that is probably one of my favorite parts. I Whether I'm writing by myself or co-writing, and I love doing both. I write a lot on my own best, but I also love co-writing because of the fact that it's all collaborative and you can only go so far within yourself. So you might need other people to kind of help push you outside of your comfort zone. And even if you say a lyric and it doesn't stick, it may inspire something to somebody else and that will stick, which I think is really cool. There's no wrong answers with songwriting. I mean, there is a good and a bad. We'll say that there is good lyrics and there's not so good lyrics, but none of them are wrong. And that's the beauty of songwriting that I love. And so when you have like this work tape and I send it to my producer and they're like, okay, and they chart out the song, and then I go into the studio and there's anywhere from 7 to 15 musicians. And all of a sudden they hear the song like 1 or 2 times and they're like, okay, we got it. And they go into the studio to track it. And I'm in my own little vocal booth. We're singing it so they can hear which parts are where. And then all of a sudden the song goes from like nothing to like a very muffled audio work tape on your phone to like a full production, like finished song. It's like magic. It is absolutely magic.
It's alchemy, it's magic, it's that special combination of so many minds and musicians coming together. And I love that, to talk about that process. I'm always fascinated by that. Who are some of the producers you've worked with who've influenced you over the years?
I have worked with some amazing producers. I worked with Kent Wells, who's Dolly Parton's band director. I worked with Buddy Hyatt and Chuck Rhodes. And my last couple songs that I've put out have been with Jeff Huskins. There we go. I was going to confuse all their names together and put them in one, but it's Jeff Huskins. It was going to be a little bit of everybody.
And what are these people, these greats, these experienced industry professionals, what do they bring to the table that kind of opens your eyes as you bring your songs in?
One thing that I do love about working with different producers is that everyone has a different outlook on things, whether it be super guitar driven or like piano driven. Everyone's a little bit different, but ultimately it all comes out to a great like record. And so to be inside that whole process and kind of get to see a little bit into their minds, whether it be, even if I take like one song and then all of a sudden I play it for somebody else and they're like, okay, like this is cool, but it'd be cool if we could add this. And then we go back and we're like, okay, like, you know what? Let's all work on this together type of thing. So it's really awesome to see that.
And what's your first, do you play the guitar or piano, or do you compose the melodies first or the lyrics first, or does it change based on the song?
I play a little bit of both. I mean, not enough to play on stage yet, but enough for me to write and get by. And that's really cool for me because I do love coming up at least with a little bit of like chords, just some music behind it. But sometimes I'll like hear something that somebody said and like, that's a cool lyric, let me write it down. And so I kind of come up with like a little guideline of where I want to go with it. But ultimately I love when I'm able to put the music behind it, because then I'm able to see exactly where I want the song to go. Because if it's like an upbeat kind of song, usually aren't going to talk about like how your cat died type of thing. You aren't going to talk about that. That's going to be like a slower song. And so that's definitely one thing that I really persistently do. I love to write with music first.
Wow. So what's it like when some of when you've taken your music and you've taken the stage? What are some of your first major performances where you say, boy, this is exciting, I want to do this for the rest of my life?
I would have to say it was right before or even during the filming of The Voice, and I got to, at least I had a set on the side stage at a big country concert, but I was also pop at the time, so I was on the side stage, but I got to sing the national anthem right before Tim, and there was probably 25,000 people. And at that point I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely insane with how many people are here and how many people love and support these artists. I'm like, this is what I want to do. That's where I want to be. I want to be that.
You knew it right away.
Oh yeah.
So tell us about The Voice. How did that come about, and what did that do for you, being on national television and getting to collaborate with Kelly Clarkson? Oh, what an incredible opportunity for a young person.
I mean, with The Voice was the best experience, one of the best experiences I've ever had. Just because, I mean, I was 16 at the time. I'm 19 now, but I was very young then. I mean, I'm young now still, but definitely did not know as much as I do now. And so during The Voice, I really got to learn not only about like myself as an artist, but like as a person, and figure out who I am, as well as being around so many incredible musicians and getting to work with some of the greats. I mean, I got to work with Kelly Clarkson, and she was my idol since I first started singing. Like I went to her concert. She was my first concert ever. I used to sing her song Because of You at like every local talent show when I was like 10 years old. And then I got to be on her team, and it's like my idol is like now my friend. I can consider her a friend, which is really awesome to see. And then after The Voice ended, she invited me out to sing at her show, and it happened to be on my 17th birthday, so she let me sing like her song Because of You with her, and then she brought me out like a cake and sang me happy birthday on stage. It was the coolest.
So tell us about that. What was it? That must have felt like a pinch me moment, right? To be up there with your idol and making music on the same stage and singing her song. Wow, what an incredible time.
It was so many feelings of just happiness at that point, because I mean, like I just said, but she was my idol, and she still is, and she is such a kind and genuine person. And I guess even like when you expect it, you don't expect it to be like that like intense of how kind and genuine she is. And like everything that you see on TV, she is that and beyond. Incredible person, incredible human, beautiful soul. And so when I got to do that, it was just like oh my gosh, this is insane. Like I'm like, every time that I saw her multiple times. And at that point, still, I was like, oh my God, is this real life? Like, somebody pinch me. I'm fangirling right now. Like, I'm going to freak out and start crying because I'm singing with Kelly Clarkson. Like, what is going on? But I always make jokes about it. At that time, I made jokes about it because I was like, hey, Dad, this is my 17th birthday. Who am I singing with next year? What's going to happen for my 18th?
Well, your career is going to explode, and it's been doing great, and you've got singles out there that have over 20,000 views on Spotify. I was just cruising there today, and you've got a dynamic presence on all the social media platforms, so your music is getting out there to so many people. What's it like to be out there and pursuing your passion?
It is probably one of the greatest feelings, just to know that I get to do what I love and have people receive it so well and support my music and myself as an artist, and to know that there's an impact being made, at least with the music that I'm making. I know I've gotten so many messages saying that, like, especially like Half That Strong. I mean, I wrote it about my dad. I wrote it for his birthday during COVID, and I didn't intend on releasing it. I just kind of did it as like a way to say thank you and how much I love and appreciate everything that he does for me and how much I care and love him. So that was for that. It was just for his birthday. And then as Father's Day was coming around, I was like, you know what? I feel like a lot of people can relate to it, whether it's, even if it's maybe not someone's dad and it's like their mom or like their aunt or their uncle or grandma, grandpa, I felt, or even if it's like a friend, there's somebody there that means so much to them as how my dad means to me. And that has shown them, like, without them, they wouldn't be who they are today. And so I wanted to put that out. And so I've gotten so many messages saying that, like, I can feel this. This is about this person in my life, or this is about this person.
Isn't that amazing? How, what makes music so great is all about universal human emotion, right? So what you wrote for your dad means something totally different to someone else in Europe, right? So you must get messages from all over the world. What's it like to get messages that your music touches people in other places?
It is. I get goosebumps every time I see them, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my life. Like, I got to impact somebody, and I feel like ultimately as a musician, that is the main goal. You just want to, even if it's one person, you just want to be able to touch one person. You did your job. And so for there to be multiple and so many that I can't even count off the top of my head, it's an incredible feeling to know that I'm doing what I love and other people love what I'm doing.
Well, it's so exciting to see, someone rising up to the top of the field and working so hard. And so I know you can't say a lot, but I know you're deep in your first major album, and you've been releasing singles. I'm fascinated by this. We're in an era where it's very short attention span with social media, TikTok, and all this stuff. Oh, so wow. With singles, it's a single market. So why produce a full album in 2022?
I see. The thing is, the album isn't finished yet. Let's just say that. I can't say too much, but sure. With everything that I'm writing, it is who I am, and I want to also have that and like really take my time with it. I don't want to rush it at all, because of the fact that I want it to be who I am, and as well as grow my music and make it to the exponential growth that it can be. Through singles as of right now. Like, I just released my song Gamble on You that came out a little bit ago, and the music videos to follow on April 20th, which I'm very excited about for everyone to see that. But after that, it's going to be a few more singles, and then decide whether or not if I want to release the album yet. So
that's exciting. That's very exciting. So tell us about the music video process. I mean, back in the old days, it took millions of dollars to make music videos, and today's artists are being very creative. I'm seeing incredible work, and people are producing, self-producing, or producing with. How are you producing your videos, and do you have to hire a directing team, or do you have some of the input in the direction?
So at least with this one, I mean, every single other video that I have out, I also did have like directive. Creativity over, but this one especially is like my little baby, especially because of the fact that, I mean, I wrote the song by myself. With the help, obviously, with like producers and figuring out like arrangement wise, but this one to me is very special, just because of the fact that I did write it, and then now all of a sudden, now it went from here to now it's at the full end product, and now I did the music video, and I had full creative liberty over that, and so I directed it, and I don't know what produce would be for that, but if I'm right, then I also kind of produced it as well, which I think is really cool, and so I'm excited for everyone to see this.
It's the music industry and entertainment is such limitless growth possibility. There's so many ways you can kind of keep growing and learning about. Even like, that's what I guess the artists who have been in it for 40 years, that's what they find so exciting. There's always something to learn, right?
There's always something to learn. And I feel like as soon as you limit yourself to growing and learning, that's when you reach your fullest potential. And so it's important to keep growing and being a sponge, just taking everything in. Even if somebody says something and you may not agree with it at first, but then you don't knock it till you try it. That's my thing. Because you know what? That could lead somewhere. And even if it doesn't work out, it may lead to somewhere else that does work out. And so I always take everything in with with open arms, and I'm always the first to try everything.
Well, keep on doing it. It's paying off big time, and you're doing such great work. So, in your performing, do you have a preference in the studio or live performance, or are they 50-50? How does that work in your life?
I'm about 50-50. I mean, if I could live at the studio, I would. I would be there 24/7. I love recording and writing and doing that whole process of even like the engineering and the editing. I love all that because it's so fascinating to me. I know a little bit about it where I can get by, but I don't know everything in depth. So when I'm sitting in the studio and I'm like just like locked in on like what they're doing on the computer, and I'm like, oh, okay, what are we doing now, guys? This is cool.
Those guys are like ninjas to me.
Yeah,
I'm a classical conductor, so when I do an orchestra, I am mixing it live in the live performance. But when I watch these guys in the studio and tweaking and fixing, and it just to me is magic.
And there's so many different, like, I don't know what the words are called, or the word is, but like where they like the little dials that they have to like pull back just to like get a certain sound out. I'm like, this is insane. How do you remember which one is which? That's what I want to know, because there's like 400 buttons right here, and I couldn't tell you what any of them mean. But I also do love performing. Performing is also where my heart is at, and I could do that 24/7. I mean, the goal is to be touring very soon. So.
Oh, have you been on a full-length tour yet?
I have not, but that hopefully is coming very soon.
Put that out into the ethos, into the ether.
Oh, we're going to manifest it.
Absolutely. Well, that's exciting. And yeah, with the tour, I mean, that's going to be an exciting next journey. And so do you play, I know you play some of these really large venues opening. Are you doing smaller venues like some of the Nashville venues? What's it like on the small venue side?
I have in the past. I am coming out to Nashville in May, and I know I'm performing at Bluebird Cafe, as well as Tin Roof, which I'm very excited for, as well as doing like
those places have incredible ghosts, right?
Oh yeah, there's so much like musical energy there, and it's like you walk into. I mean, Bluebird is just so historically legendary that everything about that, it's like the music venue. That's like the place to be at out there. And so it's like I get the honor to be singing there, which I'm very excited for. And that's happening in May. I'm not sure what day, but I know it's the 16th or the 20th, one of those dates.
So all Nashville people, check that out, the Bluebird. We have Presley Tennant singing at the Bluebird. That's exciting.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And it's a tiny venue, right? You get there, it's like a really small stage, but it's the intensity of who's been there and the importance in the music industry. And
But I also do love the intimacy of how small it is, just because of you get to kind of pull it back and do like a more acoustic style set instead of having a full band. And it's different from when you would go anywhere down on Broadway and then you go to Bluebird. It's so different. And even if you're at like Writers Rounds, I feel like is a lot closer to that feeling than a normal like festival kind of show. But that's something that I really enjoy. I do love the intimacy of it because of the fact that it's like you're right there and you get to hear every little thing and how much a song means to somebody. You get to really strip it down to just like the purpose behind the song.
That's really powerful. Thanks for sharing that. So when you do these more intimate sets, is it just you and a guitar or you piano? What do you usually travel with?
I usually do me and a guitar, me and a guitarist. That is my preferred.
And it must be much more singer-songwriter like, right? Who are some of your favorite singer-songwriters?
I mean, I listen to everybody and I take inspiration from everybody, but songwriting-wise, I really admire Ashley McBryde and Kaylee Hammack. They are probably up in my top favorites. I just love Ashley and Kaylee's like writing style and how you're able to see everything that you're listening to. That's my favorite part of a song, when you're able to hear a song and you can see exactly what's happening in your head. And you're just like, okay, like I know, like I feel like I'm there in this moment of time. Like I just know exactly what's going on.
Your voice is so emotive. Like it's so, you have so much expression in your voice when I listen to your songs. And that's like the essence of being the singer-songwriter, has to grab you immediately. Did that always come naturally to you?
It did, but it didn't. It definitely took a little bit of growing for me to do. Especially, I mean, it's a lot easier when I'm singing songs that I wrote, or at least I can relate to a lot more, because it's hard. If you don't relate to a song, then it's hard to put meaning in there because you don't understand it. And so in the studio, because I do write my own songs and I am recording my own songs, it's a lot easier. But I remember growing up and I would sound like I'm just singing the song. My producer would be like, hey, can you like dance around in there and like let loose and just like feel it? Like you're going to be good. This is safe zone. No one's judging you. You can do this. And so, I mean, my producer when I was younger, he moved to Germany. He's doing phenomenal out there. But he definitely taught me a lot.
It's those inspirations along the way are so important. We have a question. Our first question from the audience. This is Evelyn, who's on Facebook Live, and she asks if you could do give me 3 dream duets. Who are some artists you would like in the future would love to sing with, either living or deceased? Who are some of the ones you'd love to perform with?
I am a sucker for powerhouse vocals. That is always what I gravitate towards. So Carrie Underwood, Miranda Lambert, and Chris Stapleton. Those would be my top 3.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
How about deceased?
Oh, probably Johnny Cash.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say Johnny Cash.
I have such respect for Johnny Cash. Boy, what a fascinating musical personality.
Oh yeah, he is definitely someone that I would have loved to work with.
I grew up with I'm 47 years old. I grew up with Soundgarden. That was when I was a teenager, and he did those like the Break My Rusty Cage, and I'm sitting there like, I thought that Johnny Cash wrote that first and Soundgarden covered it. No, it's the opposite. That that Soundgarden wrote it and Johnny Cash covered, and he was covering like heavy metal songs. I'm like, this guy is amazing. Like, what a fascinating artist.
He's limitless.
Wow.
There is no boundaries for him whatsoever.
We'll have to hold a seance and make that happen.
For sure.
And any other ones any other great inspirations from the past? Who are some of the legendary folks who you still hold in high esteem?
I would say Patsy Cline.
Old school.
Oh yeah, that's real old school. But I don't know. There's something so, for me, melodically, like, okay, there's a lot of people that I can say are like perfect, but like to me, Patsy Cline is like perfect. Like it fits everything so right in my brain for some reason. Like all the gears turn and they work at the same time, and it's just, if I could say anybody, it'd be Patsy Cline.
Okay, great answer. Thanks for sharing that. So now COVID hits, and I'm sure you had tons of concerts on the books and projects coming up and collaborations. What did that do? And like, what was it like having the live performances canceled and having to kind of rethink things for a while? What was it like for you?
Time during COVID for me was a blessing and a curse. I feel like every musician could say that because of the fact that everyone is so used to performing and doing live shows, but it really made us focus on like the back end work and creating so much music, which I think is really cool. I feel like everyone has a surplus of music in their catalog right now and they're excited to release. And so that is something that has been good for me because of how much I've been writing and I've been in the studio and recording. But also at the same time, when COVID first hit, I definitely took doing live shows for granted because, I mean, it's like everyone says it like don't take it for granted because one day it's going to be gone. And it's very true. It did happen. I mean, everyone got to experience it firsthand, even if it was like work, that type of thing. And all of a sudden you're at work and that can be someone's like safe place. And then all of a sudden they're not. And so for me, performing was my safe place. I loved being on stage, and that's just where I feel the most comfortable at. I feel like I can let everything go, and then all of a sudden it was just stripped away from me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what's going to happen now? Like, what are we doing? So, but I did use that time to maximize who I am as an artist and allow myself to grow on the back end, if that makes sense. Get all the back end work done, so as soon as everything was lifted and that shows are happening now, it's like I can come out and be like, okay, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is what I've been working on.
We've had over 250 podcasts of artists from multiple genres, from singers of the Metropolitan Opera to people like yourself, singer, and it's amazing how creative the creative industry is and how resilient. And I think we're going to see an explosion of creativity, both like albums like yours that are coming out and live performances, and people have like kind of built that up, and now it's time for to let it all go. And I think we're going to see that real like explosion of creativity come out the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, and I'm very excited to see it. There's so many people, talented people that even if it's time, like if they weren't working on writing or recording, it's just like bettering themselves and getting better at their craft for what they do and really honing in on whether it be they're a guitarist or a pianist or they do vocals, that type of thing. Like they're able to really take that time and just focus. And so like now when you are doing shows, it's like hey, I'm back and better than ever type of thing.
Yeah, we all, I think we all appreciate being back on the stage again. I know for me as well, my first concert after 2 years of not performing in front of an audience, it was so emotional for the orchestra, for myself, and it's like, oh yeah, I love this. That's right. It's like, oh, it was such it was so like cathartic for me. And so, what was that also for you?
It 100% was. It was just like so much. I don't even know what the right way to say it is, but you don't realize how much you miss it until it's gone. And so when you do get it back, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is what I've been missing. This is exactly it. And I definitely won't ever take performing for granted again or doing live shows.
I think COVID taught us all like how like crazy like the entire industry could come to a ground. That wasn't even a consideration for as an opera conductor. Like the Met had never canceled more than a couple nights in a row. 9/11 only canceled a few performances. Like a blizzard maybe occasionally, but this is once in multiple lifetimes. So I think it did teach us that a little bit of humility and a little bit of and taking care of yourself and coming back. And I think that really makes a difference now.
Oh, yeah.
Did you devote more time to the studio because of the absence of live performance? Is that more of your work during COVID?
I definitely did, especially, I mean, at least with flying back and forth, it was great because no one was on the planes. And so the flights
silver lining.
And I was like, great. Like I paid like $80 for a flight to Nashville and I get the whole row to myself. This is insane. But I mean, the only bad part was like half the time it was canceled, and so you had to like wait there until there was like at least like 15 people that were on the flight trying to go there instead of like 4. So that was the only tough part. But I definitely.
Do you record in LA as well as Nashville?
I do. I definitely have found my little home base out in Nashville, but if for some reason my producers are out here in LA, then I will definitely be there.
The two centers of the singer-songwriter and a pop artist world and the country world. There's certainly those two locations. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And where's some of your favorite places to perform? If you had to give us a couple, where are some of the most memorable performances you've done to date?
Ooh. Are we talking about venues or like festivals?
Up to you.
All right, we'll do a little bit of both. For me, obviously Boots in the Park. I've been performing with them. I performed 2 weeks ago, and then I'm performing tomorrow. And the last one was in my hometown, which was really cool because, I mean, it's not a very big town. It's considered like a small town, but for Southern California. So everyone's like, oh, like city-like. And I'm like, nope, country-like. Like quite the opposite. It's probably one of the only towns in Southern California, unless you go up north. And then it's a lot more like farm town types of things. And so for me to perform there, it was so cool. I mean, performing is one thing already I love, but to be in my hometown and have the people that I grew up with and that have made such an impact and have supported me on every step of the journey that I have, it is so cool, but also so nerve-wracking because of the fact that I'm like, oh my gosh, if I mess up, I'm going to see these people at Target like tomorrow. And they're going to be like, what was that, girl? I'm going to be like, girl, I don't know either.
Live without a net. I love that. That's what I love about live music.
Oh, yeah. So it definitely was a lot of fun. Nerve-wracking a little bit in the beginning, and then I kind of was able to let go and make the nerves into adrenaline.
How do you make that? My son's a drummer and he's getting into the professional field. How do you make that adjustment from nerves to adrenaline? Because you're always going to be nervous. I know even it's not so much nerves, but the nerves turn into this like extra energy source. How did you make that adjustment? And do you still get nervous?
I wouldn't say that it's nerves now at this point. I mean, definitely when I was younger, because I mean, everyone is nervous when they first start out, I feel like, because it's like brand new, but I feel like I've done it so much and this is all I've known and that I've practiced so much that I am able to kind of just let go and do what I know.
Sometimes the gods of technology aren't so kind, but we got you back again. Sorry about that. You were saying.
I was just saying that, I mean, I don't even know what we were talking about. I lost my train of thought.
Venues you liked and...
There we go. And my favorite venues would obviously be Boots in the Park, when I performed for them, as well as I did one show. I mean, it was one when I sang the national anthem right before Tim McGraw, and this was a couple years ago. And there was 25,000 people, and it was right on the beach, and it was just like, oh, like there's like the ocean right next to us, but there's also an ocean of people in front of me. So I was like, I don't even know where it starts, and then they like do the wave, and it's like the ocean. No, I'm just kidding. That was a dumb joke, but.
My kids would tell me it's a dad joke because I have 4 kids. So.
Well, hey, if it's a dad joke, then that would make a lot of sense. Then that's all that comes out of my father's mouth. So, and they're usually like the bear and the rabbit jokes in the woods, if you know that one.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's an old standard.
So, oh yeah.
Do you have an agent who's getting you? Do you have an agent? Are you working with agencies who get you these really important jobs?
It's mainly out of just connections. I mean, I do have a team. Wow. I don't have a booking agent or anything. It's either people reaching out to me or it's my team reaching out to them. But my team is incredible, and they're Burning Ground Entertainment, and they are phenomenal people. I absolutely love them as people, as well as what they do and what they stand for. And it's very important, I feel like, to have a nice team around you, because if you don't, it's just nothing works. So as long as everyone like really gets along and they know what each other's limits are and like how much they can push each other, I feel like is a good thing.
It's very important to have a team that's supportive and that pushes you, and that they will work together, because it's so complicated, a career in the performing arts. And it's I always tell my students, I teach at university, that it's a music career is a marathon, not a sprint, right? Yeah.
There was one thing I was told, and it was like everybody is in line to get to the same destination, but there's going to be people that hop out of line because they can't wait long enough. And so when you stay in line and people start hopping out, you're slowly moving up one by one. And that's something that I've always stuck by. You just got to keep to it, because there's enough room for everybody in this industry, and it's just a matter of time for when it's going to happen.
Now, you're such a focused and dedicated person. Someone your age, you've been in the business a long time, since you were a little kid. So what's it like being an indie artist today, and how do you balance your schedule and the performing, the recording? How do you balance all that?
I feel like I have a very good balance of my business as well, and then my personal life. And it's nice because I have my friends and family. They are all so supportive of everything I do, and they understand, hey, if I can't make it, they totally get it. It's work comes first, but also at the same time, there is a time to take a break from work and go have fun and let loose type of thing.
That's important to balance those two things out, and those, you have to have both, and otherwise you go too far on the work side and you'll eventually just burn yourself out, and you have to keep yourself fresh. And and what happens when you hit writer's block as a songwriter? How do you get over that?
Oh God, that is the worst thing I think that ever is to exist. For me, I just like to write. For me, I write to get out of writer's block, even if it's bad, and I just write literally anything. Like I'll write a song, a bad song about like a tree I saw on the street while I was driving, that type of thing, just to maybe like get all the ideas out so I can start making new ones. At least for me, that's the way it works for me. Or I just don't write, which is not that great, but I don't write, and then I hope to God something changes very soon. But usually I end up just trying to write out of it.
Well, that's it's just figuring the way out. And I bet even some of the songs that you don't love might have a kernel of something there that can be turned into something down the road. Do you find that's the case?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many. I can look through my notes right now and find songs that I have ideas from, and I'm like, I don't like this song, but I like this lyrics. Maybe it'll work for a different song. So I kind of just pick little ones out from previous songs that I have written and turn it into new ones.
What's it like when you hear songs you wrote when you were younger? I always tell my students and my colleagues that the music's like an amber that captures everything around it, like in Jurassic Park when they capture the mosquito, it's got the dinosaur DNA in it. What's it like when you hear music that you wrote from years ago, and what is that? Does it take you back to those places when you wrote those songs?
I do. Well, at first, no. I just cringe because I'm like, oh, why did I write this? But then I think about it, and I'm like, hold on. Let's retrace it. Let's go back to that time. I was 14. What else am I going to write about? I can't write about heartbreak. I can't write about being in a relationship and having my heart torn apart or anything like that. I can't. Like, I can write about not taking the summer because I don't want to go back to school. That's what I can write about. Or it's like songs like that. It's just, so in the beginning, definitely cringe. And I'm like, why does this exist? Why is this a thing? Why did anyone say this was acceptable? But then I take a moment and I'm like, okay, you know what? It was acceptable. I was young at that time. And I kind of look back on it. And
you got to write on your own experiences. You don't want to be writing about a 40-year-old middle-aged person when you're 15.
Yeah, no,
you have a whole lifetime.
Life crisis at like 15 years old.
It's going to be a very long life if you are.
Oh, yeah.
But how has your songwriting deepened as you've gotten older and as you've gotten more life experience? Have you felt that you've tried new ways of songwriting? You've adapted new styles?
Yeah, I mean, with songwriting, I have tried everything. I feel like, at least with different writing styles and what I want to say with my writing. And the more I'm growing up, the more I'm learning. It's not even just about myself, but it's about like way of life type of thing, as cheesy as that sounds. But figuring out who I am at 16, I thought I had figured out who I was, but Lord knows I didn't. And every 16-year-old will say that, but I was like, look back and I was like, girl, what were you doing? Like, this is not it. And like, at 19, I feel like I figured myself out, but at 22, I'm probably gonna be like saying the same thing, like, girl, what were you doing? No, you didn't.
When you get to be 112 like me, life just keeps on going on and changing. And, I love that. And a life lived through song, you'll be able to go back and think about all these things. I know I watch recordings of some of my older performances. I'm like, I hear every little thing, like that oboe player missed that, or that opera singer missed that. But you kind of, I remember the people I make music with. That's kind of one of my favorite things. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that orchestra. I remember that performance. And it's such a great way to live in music.
Oh yeah, and just to kind of like pinpoint every moment and everybody that was there for certain projects and certain records, it's very nice to think about.
So what are some of your goals? Now, an indie artist in 2022, it's so interesting. You have an ability to put music out that goes out to the entire world, right? But how do you make an impact as an artist today?
The one thing about music that I really love is that everything can be interpreted in so many different ways. It may mean something to me when I write it a certain way, but when the listener hears it, it may mean something completely different to them. And that is so beautiful about writing and music in general, just because of how it is interpreted. And so that's something that I really aspire, because, going back to Half That Strong about my dad, it's like I wrote the song about my dad, but people are relating it to so many other things in their life, even if it's not even a person and it's just like an instance that happened. Like they're just like a oh my gosh, like if this didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today, that type of thing. And so I feel like Half That Strong can mean so many different things, as well as, Gamble on You is a little bit different. I wrote about it, about what I went through, and I was talking to this guy that I really liked, and the Poker Channel came on. I was like, that's a cool song. Gambling's like love, you take a gamble. That's a song. And so, it's like it worked out for me. I took a gamble, won big. I'm still dating him. He's right here laying down. Probably.
Is he a musician?
No, actually, he's not.
Okay, you'll always have something to talk about.
Oh yeah. So, but no, we met so random in the middle of the desert. We both like are out in the desert. He rides dirt bikes, I ride quads, and so I was like, and then I met him. And I was like, oh my god, this is right. We were supposed to meet. This is awesome.
There's a lot of songs in there.
Oh yeah. But it's like, for Gamble, I was saying that it might be a little bit different, but for me, at least it's like you're taking a chance on somebody. But it may not be about taking a chance on somebody. It could be taking a chance on something for somebody else, if that makes sense. Absolutely. It's all interpreted differently.
That's what makes music so the subjective in music is such it may be written about in a certain circle, but everyone views it through their own lens, and that's what's so powerful about it. And and I think it's incredible. What's it like to you when you hear people are listening to you? And I love the analytics on the different platforms. You can see people are listening to you in like Estonia or who knows where. What's it like when you hear that?
It is honestly really cool, especially because of the fact that American country music is very big in other countries. And I
It
did not
is.
realize that, especially like out in the UK, in Germany, in Australia. Like I didn't realize that. Even like I 2 weeks ago when I played for Tim, um, there was also Morgan Evans, and I knew that he was Kelsey Ballerini's husband, and I knew that he did country music, but I had no idea he was Australian, and that there was I know who Keith Urban is. I know that he's Australian, but I didn't realize there was many more. As bad as that sounds, like
And what is it about American country music that is universal, that does translate? Because we think of it as being so American. A lot of it's American roots out of the American soil. But what is it that's transferable?
I feel like it because of the fact that it's all a lot of storytelling, and it's even if it's like a patriotic song, it's just they could be patriotic for their country type of thing, which I think is really cool. But also for the fact that it's all storytelling, like you can listen to whatever type of songs that you want in country music. There is a little bit of everything. You can listen to the heartbreak songs and then you can listen to like the first dance songs, and then you can play like Red Solo Cup to have a party, that type of thing. It's so diverse and it's so limitless within its own singular genre.
And I find that more and more, the more I hear, like artists like yourself who kind of cross hybridize with some pop and there's some singer-songwriter. There's so many different types of style in country music today. It's really gone very multi-platform.
Oh yeah, and I think it's really cool in that it's just it's a very diverse genre because there is no limits. I mean, you listen to country radio and there's a little bit of everything. There's like God, I'm like blinking. There's like country pop, and then there's like country rock, and then there's like Latin country, which is really cool to see. And then there's like country, like almost hip hop kind of thing. And I don't know, there's just so many different crossovers that happen everywhere, and it's just kind of opens your eyes to everything. It doesn't have to be so with borders. Everything is borderless.
Well, that's the great thing about music is it does break down those borders, both national, ideological, and may it always be so.
Mm-hmm.
Presley, thank you so much for joining us on Music Matters. I wish you continued success and have a great show tomorrow.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, next time when your album's out, come back here and tell us about it.
I will, for sure.
All the best. Continued success. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. Thank you so much for joining us, and remember, keep music alive.